Okay, hi, Jacky Sherman from Asentiv. Some of you may not know who Asentiv are. We're an international consulting and coaching company, 100% dedicated to helping businesses succeed through collaboration. And because we believe that businesses are more successful for themselves, their people, their clients and their society if they collaborate as a community and with a shared sense of purpose and ideals, and that's the ethos we encourage. So Paul asked me to talk today, gave me a question actually: why is networking as important as ever in these times? And my first response to that was, well, why would you think that it wasn't? So, but I think there are people who are saying, well, what's the point? I've got no clients, my market's locked down, I need to go away and think of something else to do, or just hunker down until it all goes away. And there are also others who are incredibly busy. If they're involved in supplying essential services, or busy supporting others, like your accountant helping people with finance, or HR consultants helping people bring people back to work. So it can be too busy or not busy enough. Might make people think networking wasn't important. But for me, networking business relies on relationships. It's all about people working with people, however they do that. And we need other people. So that's where I'm coming from. Now, if you know me, when I'm running a talk like this, I like you to crop in. So I like you to participate rather than just listen to me. So networking is developing and activating those relationships. I'd just like to get from you, my participants, on why do you go networking? I presume you all do. Yes? Do you all go networking?
Yep.
Are they all muted? Have you muted them, or are you self-mutilating?
Well, needs a bit of management because they can't all shout at you at once, Jacky. I know you'll think you're live and physical, but you can unmute yourselves, guys. So if you've got something to say, just wave at the camera rather than shout, and I'll invite you.
Just wade in.
No,
so I just wanted to get a feel for what did you get out of networking? Why do you go networking? Right. What are you trying to achieve?
Gary, outrageous.
Go on, Gary.
So one of the reasons that I first started to go networking many years ago was to get business, because that's what it was all about in my head at the time. And I found out very quickly that didn't happen. And then it was all about deciding, did I want to find the right people that I could help and they could probably help me? So I started to stand back and think about a bit more about my business and their business. Actively, I started my own network group many years ago called Begong. Would get many people in, and on purpose I would always be looking, who can I connect with? And I would look at the people I meet, who can I introduce people to? So I was building up like a database. It's nice also just to meet like-minded people, in all fairness, especially when you're in your business.
So to meet like-minded people, to be part of something, isn't it? To make connections and develop relationships. Am I getting that right, Gary? Yeah, that's where you go networking.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Anyway, somebody else had their hand up.
Shannon, what about you?
Shannon.
Yeah, I think for us, it's the community. Like within the networking groups that we're in, it's a real community. There's such a support system. When I first joined the business, I was straight out of uni, and going from a crazy busy uni household to being back at home, being just with the family. There was that massive support system and the opportunity to learn as well. Like, I learned so much through the networking groups, through the webinars like this, everyone's expertise that people just have. So I think for me, it is business as a part of it, like you say, Gary, like initially, but also there's so much learning and community there for us.
Yeah. Anyone else want to add anything? Or you all nodding in agreement? Yeah.
Yeah.
Martin, go on.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with everything, but I think I'd say that I would only, having said all that, I'd probably only go networking if gaining business was on the agenda as well.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to. It's not necessarily. It's not the be all and end all. But networking without that in mind, to me, is is breakfast tasting, really.
Right. We could get into a long conversation about that, difference of opinions, but it's difference. I think the difference is emphasis, isn't it? I would say that networking covers all those things. It's generating business. That might be through connections and being referred. It might be someone in the room. I get a lot of business from people who I meet networking, as well as getting referrals. Increasing your knowledge, getting education, and being a big source of support. I think one of the things that I've noticed since the pandemic really is the amount of support people are looking for out of their networking has really, and the amount of support they're getting from their network has been really important to them. So that's why we network. What I want to do today, though, is just expand on that and share with you a very simple mnemonic you can use about the stages that you go through when you're developing a relationship, and how you can do that through networking, and particularly networking at a really difficult time like we have today. So this is a mnemonic which is 3 initials, V, C and P, where V means you start off by being visible to each other. You can't have a relationship with someone if you don't know each other exists. So being visible and knowing what each other does. Then after that, you start to develop credibility, where you really understand someone, whether they're trustworthy, whether they know what they're talking about, and whether they deliver good services. And then you can move to profitability, which is what you get out of it. Now that can be business, but that could also be a piece of knowledge about a new grant that's available, or it might be a new way of doing something. So, and that P is also reciprocal. Well, all 3 of these really are reciprocal. You both have to play, you and the other person. So I'm going to use that VCP model to just expand a bit. But first I want to make a quick point that really we're talking here about going to a network event or joining a group, but actually networking is every interaction that you have with another person. Every time you speak to someone on the phone, you send an email, you comment on their posts, every interaction is actually you developing your relationship with that person. And it's really it's a big part of networking. But for the rest of this session, I'm just really talking about the networking you do in the form of going to an event or join a group. And at the moment, that's online, isn't it? Because we don't do it any other way. So I've lost you there. So I want to start with visibility. First thing, yeah.
Mark's got his hand up. Mark, do you want to?
Go on, Mark. Did you want to say something?
I was just going to say about that particular bit you were saying about what networking is. It's every interaction. I think that is easily missed. When people ask me, "Oh, does networking work for you?" I say, "Well, yeah, I get a certain proportion from the formal networking I do, but also I've got a reasonable proportion of my business has come from ex-colleagues who I've kept in touch with, who I had a good relationship in the first place, who trusted me saw what I did when I was working in other businesses. So I think it's easily misunderstood, And actually, if you look at it more from the point of view of that secondary bit, if you applied those principles of doing the right thing, being nice to people, being reliable, and helping each other and being part of something as a two-way thing, then actually, if you apply all of that to the formal networking, then that works much better anyway.
Yeah.
I think, you know, obviously the idea is to get the business out of it, but it's a balance. And I think if I wouldn't go to meetings that I really enjoyed, but definitely got no business out of long term, if it definitely wasn't going anywhere, it's just a social thing. If it was, you know, there'd be less incentive to do it. But also the other side of that is I won't generally go to meetings that I don't enjoy, no matter how much money I made out of it.
Yeah.
It's a real balance.
Okay. I think if someone was to give me £1 million, I'd probably turn up to most things. So not all though, but we won't go there. In this talk, I'm just talking about those formal networkings, but your point is quite right. It's like a lot of people get business, referred business through their clients. And that's about developing your relationship with your client, where they feel that they can not only use your services, but pass you on. So it's the same way. It's about developing that relationship and then activating it, isn't it? So that you both get a result from it. Well, I'm going to start in any case. If we're looking at joining a group or networking online, start with visibility. So, I mean, visibility means not just that you exist, but what you do. Can I just ask you, as a group, you know, what are the benefits to you of increasing your visibility, particularly at a time like this? Any comments on that? Do you think you need to be more visible, less visible?
At least as visible.
At least as visible. What would happen if you dropped your visibility?
I think what I say to people all the time is we're all easily forgotten, unfortunately. You know, we're all busy people. So, you know, if I disappear off the radar for 3 months and then another graphic designer steps in and speaks to somebody at the opportune moment and I've already become a faded memory for them, well then who are they going to go with? Who else is fresh in their mind, isn't it? So I think it's not something you can do once and assume that people will obtain all this information. You've got to keep in front of them.
And also,
I look at it as a sense of certainty as well.
Sorry?
Basically, people will not buy if they're not 100% certain.
Yeah.
So our role is to create that certainty there. So the consistency creates the certainty, and the visibility. It's a little bit like celebrities, isn't it? By keeping them in the top part of the mind awareness, then it's difficult to forget. And it's up to us to make sure that at the right time, like Mark said, that we can take advantage of the opportunities properly.
It's surprising how often you find you spot an opportunity for somebody the day after you've met with them, right? Rather than 3 weeks later. So I think it's really important at a time like this, particularly on the visibility, is to demonstrate that you're still in business, right? Because the reality is that a lot of people aren't going to be. And so it's just being there, isn't it? And being seen.
I think some businesses that have gone invisible, and I think that's a mistake. They might have their reasons for doing it, but I think it's a big mistake, I think, to cocoon your business now. Albeit that some businesses might not be getting opportunities because they're rarer out there, depending on what sector or industry you're in. But to put yourself offline for what is probably still going to be another couple of months from a networking point of view, I think is a what's the word? It is risky.
Yeah.
Because as Mark touched on, you know, I've got examples of certain sectors that have upped their networking, and people in the same sector have just stopped their networking altogether.
Yeah.
And I think those that have stopped it altogether are making an error of judgment. And when I speak to people that have been through a recession, which you could say this is a similar sort of thing, albeit come about in a different way, you know, people said you've got to be marketing during a recession. You can't stop marketing. And that's my fear, that these businesses that have disappeared now are making it harder for themselves to come out the other side.
Yeah.
Well, marketing is a slow burn, isn't it? It's a slow burn activity. So if you're, you know, in order to get your clients 3 months from now, you need to be marketing now, if not earlier. No, it's not you sometimes pick up business instantly. I've picked up business the day I met somebody, but it's very, very rare. Most of the time, it takes, as Gary was saying, it's about trust and certainty. You know, it takes a while for those things to happen. You stop doing that, then the mill stops further down the road. That's what you do.
Yeah.
Well, that's
it's all part of your pipeline, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
So people along that. I think the other thing that visibility does, and turning up to a regular event, particularly joining a group, a membership group, and being active in that, is it demonstrates your commitment to the group and to the other people. The amount of people I meet when I'm networking, and then suddenly they disappear for 6 months, and then when they rock up again, and you say, oh, well, you know, I haven't seen you for ages. What have you been up to? And they go, oh, I've been busy. And you think, oh, that's nice. So what made you come today? You're not busy anymore. And they come, oh, no, I need some more work now. And I think, well, why should I help you? You haven't bothered with me for 6 months. So you know, it's not a good idea, really.
I think there's a little bit of that. It's almost like the people that are in this together now in a networking context will remember who was around, I think.
Yeah.
And then when we come back the other side, those that all of a sudden pop up, I think there'll be a little bit, I can't put it into words, but I think there'll be a little bit of a gap. There'll be like those that are on the ship and those that are just boarding.
And there's something about we've been through a shared experience as well, which bonds people, doesn't it?
I think so. I think
so.
And that sorry, Sharon.
No, go on, Sharon. I think there's a lot of value in doing, like, going through something together.
Yeah.
And kind of off the back of what Mark and Paul have said, during this time, it's a great time to create value for each other, for your community, but actually for your pipeline going forward.
Yeah.
And get all that planned.
Yeah.
And I think it's a short-term thing, isn't it? That if you're only looking at it when you're not busy, then you're not looking at what you can contribute to things, and you're also not looking at that long-term pipeline. You know, it's a short-term game, I think.
Yeah.
That way.
I think a big part within that sort of visibility also is the idea of group support, isn't it? I mean, just over the last 2 weeks, I've been to several networking events where somebody's shown a lot of emotion and shown a bit of their vulnerability at a time like this. And the really wonderful thing has been how the rest of the group gathers around them and supports them and lifts them up. And they come away from that meeting feeling part of something and supported. That feeling that they're going to remember those people who were there when they were feeling terrible. So and as this has gone on for 7-8 weeks now, there are people who are feeling very vulnerable, and some of that is coming to the surface, where normally we keep that we present our front, don't we? Everything's all right, business is great, blah, blah, blah. It's nice that people feel able and comfortable enough to tell it how it really is at the moment. So there's visibility. Anybody want to add anything about visibility? You got anything to add, Martin or Tracy?
No, I mean, the only thing I was just reflecting on was, the people who disappear and then they come back when they need something. They're probably also the people who try and sell to the group, which is, it's the wrong way, in my opinion, to approach things. It's about, I do this, but how can, what can I do that is going to benefit the rest of the group as well? Yeah.
It's the point you were making right at the beginning, Gary, wasn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. I'll be honest, very guilty of it right at the very beginning. When I did come from a very aggressive sales environment, and so it just made sense for me to be wanting to be selling to people.
Yeah.
Until someone pulled me to one side and had a little quiet word in my ear. I sort of sat there.
Did they give you a bit?
In my own evening meal, and it was at the Russian Diamond Centre. I'll always remember it. Getting indigestion. So but I learned my lesson, and
Good.
yeah, it's okay. And you can spot them. I call them sharks. Yeah, they'll come in, they're sniffing around, they butt into the conversations, they're not interested in what you have to say, and I stand back now and go, all right then.
Bugger, that sounds like me.
Have you got anything to add, Tracy? Go
yeah,
on.
I am that person that does network and then sort of stands back. Like when you said when we first joined, I've not seen you for a long time. But I wouldn't consider myself, as you know, Jacky, as salesy. I'm in it for myself and sales. I'm not. I just felt, and I still feel, and this is why I've come on here just to see if I can reignite something, that maybe it's just not right for me, network. And I don't know what I have to, I'm employee benefit.
I think that's different. Choosing not to network. And to find your work in another way. That's a decision one way or another. I think it's if you just pitched up and did a sales pitch and then went away, and I know you don't, Tracy, because I know you well enough. So yeah. So
cherry picking.
So please don't take that as an expression about you personally.
Also, Mark raised a very good point that networking for me is part of the marketing mix.
Yeah.
Within the business, Tracy. So whatever business you're involved in, networking might fit in. So it depends on how you want to use that thing called networking to benefit yourself and the people you meet.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah. Okay, moving on. Let's think about the next stage then. So you're visible now, and people know what you do and they see you around. Now's the really chance. What networking can help you with is developing that all-important credibility. Why should I refer you and not somebody else? Most of us, in one way or another, have other people who can do what we do. But of course, not as well as us. But is that true? What is your credibility? How do you know if somebody's credible? How do I become credible to you so that you would refer me? Over to you lot again.
Mark.
Go on, Mark.
I think it's very difficult to, the best form of referral for me is one where I've actually used that company, that service, that person more than once, and you have absolute 100% faith in them, but it's not possible to do that all the time. So the next level down for me is having people I trust having used that person, or there's people who have already evaluated them in some other way and they trust them. It's that secondary level. So I had one where I referred somebody recently, and one half of that conversation, one half of that referral was, okay, I don't know this person particularly well, I've met them recently, they seem very nice people, I had a good one-to-one with them, but they were referred to me by Jacky, and I trust her implicitly. So that's that connection.
No pressure there.
No pressure at all, yeah. I mean, the referral was, brilliant. I think it's very difficult. So I think you've got to, that's where the power of the group comes in, because you can't evaluate everyone directly, but you can learn from those. You can learn to trust a group of people and learn to trust that they trust, that trust sort of spreads out then, and you can get that greater awareness. And if you hear in networking that X has done brilliant work for Y, well, then that all helps as well. All that information that comes out.
Yeah. Anything else? How else would you assess someone's credibility?
It's the classic know, like, and trust, isn't it? So it just takes the time. And as Mark mentioned, it's either you've used them in the past for business and you've been really happy, or someone else has told you, that you trust. So it goes back to that certainty and trust. I think trust is one of the biggest words in business and in life, in relationships. That once you've got that, and once you know that that's there, then certainty is going to be there. Yeah. That's how I know someone's credible.
Yes, I think there is also something about hearing it from the horse's mouth, isn't it? It's hearing someone talk about their business, or in a networking environment like this, adding their voice to the discussion and their experience and their expertise. You pick up all sorts of stuff from that, the stuff that they intend to give you, but also the other stuff, doesn't it? That sense of whether it all fits together properly, and whether, you know, how much experience, how much you'd expect me to contribute to a discussion online about software, for instance. You perhaps wouldn't expect very much, especially if you know me, but you would expect somebody like Ashish to be able to talk knowledgeably on the subject. Yeah?
Yeah.
So there's something about being there that adds to that credibility.
Yeah, I'm just going to say, I think what always amazes me, and this is where the power of networking comes in, is the amount of times somebody says, you know, they sound very credible when you talk to them and they say about what they can do, but then you either find out directly from trying to use them, or find out from other people who have used them, that the simplest service aspects have been missed. So they don't follow up on a phone call, they don't follow up on a quote, they're difficult to get hold of, or they don't deliver, and all that stuff then informs the rest of it. And I refer to it as people as that, for me, and I don't know if it's the same for everyone else, but in my head there's sort of this trustometer thing goes on. When I meet somebody, it's neutral. The first few things they say, the first encounters I have with them, will knock that meter one way or the other. And the more information you get, the more it moves to a positive or a negative. And what I find generally is, if you get a situation where you hear you get a really positive feeling, lots of positive feedback about somebody, then any negative feedback, one little bit of negative, you think, well, that's just two different parties who don't agree on something, or there's two sides to every story, and it doesn't dent it. The same is true the other way around. If you've heard almost nothing but bad news, it takes a long while for that trustometer in my head to come back up from positive experiences. Yeah.
So being there and demonstrating credibility in all aspects helps, is what people say, but it's also, it's like if you said you'd do something for the group, like you were going to be the speaker, and then you rock up on the day and it's obvious that you'd forgotten you were going to do it. Paul's favourite type of member is and then try to wing it, or just don't turn up, which most network organisers' nightmare. Those types of things dent your credibility as well, don't they? I mean, and they might be exaggerations, but you pick up on that. Like people are always late, or always leave early, all those types of things as well. Give you an overview of the person. And I think then, you know, the pond is getting smaller, and it's going to get smaller for a while, isn't it? You're going to have to fight harder to win business. So your credibility becomes more and more important, so that people say, yes, I'm happy to refer you to my precious client that that was hard won for me. So I think it's another good reason for going networking. Anything else on credibility? Anyone want to add anything? We've got a dog somewhere I can hear.
Sorry,
it's all right. Go on, Martin.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think, I mean, my because of what I do, very, very unusual that there's a potential client in the room. So I'm looking, I'm looking for people in the room who may have clients or contacts who are, who are the sorts of organisation I might be looking for. I'm looking for them to refer me into them. So it's for me, it's going to be about have I done a good job for the people in the room? But it's more like you're saying, Jacky, a kind of character thing.
Yeah.
Am I presenting? Am I presenting in the room as someone who's reliable, trustworthy, helpful, and you think you'd be willing to refer on?
Yeah, and to put you in front of one of my precious contacts, because people you already know, your existing network is your most precious asset, isn't it? in your business. So you don't want to make a bad referral into somebody, because you might lose that contact, and it will certainly rock the relationship a bit. Okay, so that's credibility. Now come on to profitability, and I'm using this in its wider context in networking. It's not just referrals or buy-in from person. It is also about the other things that you can both give and receive from that relationship, and a lot of that's about knowledge, contact, information, and that wonderful thing we talked about, support. So thoughts on that. Profitability, you know, or knowing what somebody needs, or what kind of things people, what kind of help you can give somebody, really needs you to have talked to them and to understand them, and to find out what they need. We can make horrible assumptions about people. So your thoughts on actually giving referrals. How do you go about finding out what kind of person somebody wants to meet? Or I'm not going to pick on you first, Mark. I was going to pick on someone else. Go on, Shannon.
Yeah, just ask them. What do you
Ask
want?
them.
What are you looking for?
Who are you looking for? Yeah.
What does your business need? Who in my network?
I think when getting to know someone, it's really important to ask the right questions. So you have to understand enough about what you're like. I need to know what I'm looking for in order to help other people know what they're looking for, because it's those types of questions that when you're sharing that's what really makes a difference, and that's what's really the thing to build a relationship on. And that goes back to the support in profitability for us.
Sometimes it's quite difficult to find, when you ask a direct question, some people struggle to give you an answer, but others give you an answer. But I often find that I may not be able to help them with that. But then when we get talking a bit further, they'll often mention something, and I'll think, oh, now that I can help you with, yeah? And it might not be business, or it might not have been what they said in the first place, but they'll suddenly tell you about a sideline they have, or a new service they're bringing in, or something where you can help. So so it's ongoing. It's that ongoing relationship that and networking helps you to have that ongoing relationship by putting you in contact with people on a regular basis. Like Mark said, it's really easy to lose touch with someone, but if you lose touch with somebody for a couple of even a month or a couple of months, you start to drift out of their head, and what they associate you with drifts out of your head as well. You need to be front of mind with people for them to think of you at the right time and spot the opportunity for you, because we're so busy and we're down our own little funnel on what's important for our own business. You need to sort of infiltrate that with a trigger that helps people to put you in an association with that person. Yeah? Does that make sense?
Sophie, do you want to say something?
Go on.
Yeah, just sort of as a newbie to the whole networking side of things, like a literal newbie. I'm finding that, talking to people when I'm having the one-on-ones, they've actually been really helpful in leading into things like that. Yeah. So I'm actually soaking up their knowledge on how I can integrate that, as well as getting the information I need. Because I'm sort of like, yes, like all of these one-on-ones are two-way streets, but actually even tiny things that people don't even realise they're helping me with, I'm soaking up as well.
Yeah.
Everything is helpful to me at this point. Like,
yeah.
So yeah, I'm finding it all really useful in that respect as well.
I think one of the things you'll find, Sophie, is the more you do it, suddenly it becomes an awful lot of information about an awful lot of people. And So if I want to be remembered by you, I need to give you a regular sort of plug for what I want. Yeah, I've got to put that in your mind if I'm expecting you to refer me. And reinforcing that trigger in people's heads, I think being physically together really helps with that. But even if you're having to do it online with the voice, it's much more powerful than any piece of paper or anything written, because you're associating that what I'm looking for with me. So that I'll give you my example, right? I'm looking for my basic Asentiv Pro course. I'm looking for consultants who've come out of corporate life and set up their own business, experts at what they do, but they don't know how to market themselves. And they often say they are not natural networkers. So I try to get into people's heads to associate me with people who say they are not natural networkers. And I've had loads of referrals where that actual phrase has been used, and it's immediately triggered for that person. You ought to speak to Jacky. Yeah. So, but that's much more powerful if I say that to you. If that's just hidden in a blog I've written, you probably wash over your head. But if you read it in the first place. So it's kind of going networking helps you to put that trigger into a whole group of people's heads. Yeah. So, and I just gave you a plug for what I'm looking for. Thank you, folks.
That's the only reason she came on this webinar. How rude.
And Jacky, there was I thinking you were actually a programmer.
I know. On the profitability thing, Frank, you did touch on it. It's not just about business for people. I know people that go networking for the social aspect.
Yeah.
I know people that aren't looking for business. They're looking for suppliers, looking for sort of reputable suppliers. And some are just looking for the education and or a blend of all those things. So I think it's important to know what your objectives are, and business for most is going to be one of them. But I think it's looking at the bigger picture as well, because you're still raising your profile by engaging in any networking activity, albeit you might not be getting business straight away.
But giving people that information and that education, and that it's a drip effect, isn't it? Mm-hmm. The more you attend, the more you learn, and the more you hear different perspectives on the same issue. I mean, at the moment, lockdown is perhaps the topic of conversation, but you learn a lot more. And when you go networking with the same people on a regular basis, you get to know a lot more about them as people as well, don't you? We're not able at the moment to do that, stand around and have a cup of coffee with each other bit, where you often pick up the personal stuff. But a bit of banter at the beginning and end of the meetings brings some of that in. You learn about, what did I learn about someone today? We share a love of jigsaws, right? No, I don't know when that information is going to come in handy, but it will. If nothing else, if she helps me with something, I will buy her a jigsaw. Yeah. So it's that kind of information. You only get that from meeting with people on a regular basis. They're not going to dump their whole personal stuff on you in a 10-minute one-to-one at a breakfast meeting. Yeah.
I can remember I was over in Dallas many years ago, and I got to see and meet Zig Ziglar.
The what?
Oh, wow.
Zig Ziglar, yeah?
Yeah.
And he said, part of it, he said, look, success in life is helping enough people get what they want. Yeah, and that's our role, as long as you're interested. And it made so much sense to me. Like I said, earlier on in my career, I was sort of guided along, and that's what it's all about, it's picking those things up. So on purpose, and it's good to listen in, I know that when I'm with someone, I'm with them. So if I'm networking, or if I'm in a party, or if I'm just chatting with them, Years ago, I can remember being on a bus going into town from Bedford, where I had my clinic, because it had been snowing. And I sat next to a guy, and we got talking about record collections, etc. Before I finished, he gave me his business card and asked me to contact him, because I was genuinely interested in him, no one else. So if I go to an event, I'm not looking over someone's shoulder. I'm not trying to listen to someone else. I'm there. And many times, maybe I'm doing it wrong, I don't know. I've done it nearly 30 years. If someone comes up with something, I'll often say to them, oh, have you thought about this, this and this? And you probably do that, Jacky. Just a few ideas for them. And then I'll follow up with them. How did you get on? I'm not looking for any business from myself often straight away, because the more I help someone, the more I get it back. And so Zig Ziglar's phrase is absolutely spot on. Yeah,
right. Anybody else want to comment on that?
Yeah, I think it's the simplest thing for people to get a hand they want to know when they talk about networking, as I've not done before, is do you get business from it? Because that's the easiest metric they can come up with. And actually, when I talk about it, I say, yes, it does bring business, but it's all the other things that we spoke about. I say that I get support from it, I get advice, I get suppliers, I get to help people, I get them to help me. It's a much, much bigger picture. And when you get all that together, that's what makes it much more powerful. And similarly, I think people understand it's more understood about what advertising does, print advertising, web banners, that sort of thing, SEO, PPC, all that sort of stuff. And so people focus on that, and they can understand that bit, and they're prepared to spend money and that sort of thing, but they don't understand necessarily the networking side. And I try and speak to people and say to them, it is a very slow burn thing, but the relationships you'll develop out of it and the business, the connections you'll get are way stronger than anything you could do in any other method, because it does take time to build it up and to get to those levels. And it's like, say, it's about repeating with each other the triggers and the useful information that you can help each other with, and that's what takes the time. I think, I say to people, it takes a number of months to get that traction, and that's why if people don't, I also say if you don't go regularly enough, that distance of the gain traction is going to run over years.
Yeah,
you're not getting it.
I think, like we said earlier, particularly being part of a group's experience of living through a difficult time like this, also creates bonds. And the people who you've supported and helped are going to stay in your network probably the rest of your life. Sometimes, you never told, no one told that. Well, one of the when I left the health service and came into the commercial world, and I joined an organisation which helped business consultants network, I met somebody called Paul Green very, very early on. And the just will not go away. And we were in an organisation which helped me tremendously when I was getting started, because I knew nothing about the commercial world, and gave me a support mechanism. And it's true, Paul, you were one of those people, weren't you? Do you remember?
Yeah, I'm the original stalker, Mark, so back off.
Fair enough.
Okay.
I know what I'm beating.
That's all I wanted to share with you today. I hope you found that useful. If you're taking away from this and thinking about what you do, if you're going to network, just remember your regularity and a routine of going networking is really important. So being consistent is much better than doing a whole load of networking and then not doing any for months and then doing a whole load more. So spread it out. But most importantly, remember your VCP. Make sure you're visible, that you're credible, and that you are helping people as well as expecting them to help you, and you'll get the profitability. Thank you.
Okay, have you got any questions for Jacky while she's here live and available to you? Tick, 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 tick.
I'm quite interested in your thoughts on online networking and how to, if you like, how to make the most of that, because there's the visibility. We're each in a little box on a screen, and Yeah, we've got however many seconds to speak now. What you do, Paul, in terms of breakout rooms for one-to-ones and so on is quite helpful. But to me, it's really missing the the before and after chat, which is actually often the most valuable part. So I'm just interested.
I miss that beginning and end. I actually miss the end more than I thought I would. The kind of saying goodbye. Everybody just kind of leaves, and I actually go downstairs almost like I want to let you all out through my front door in my head, and sort of and that bit's not there. I think the pros and cons. I was completely anti doing stuff online. I didn't do any training online at all until this happened. So I'm a complete convert, but I found there are things which are really helpful. I think we're often a lot more focused with this because you have to be. You've got to be looking at the screen. There's nowhere to hide. People are noticing you more, I think. But I think the informality's lost in some ways. I think I'm looking forward to the day when I can actually get in a room with people again.
I think you're right. It's not exactly the same, and there's certain things that aren't going to be there. But it's having to adapt, isn't it, to what's available and what's now. I mean, the vast majority you can still do. You know, you can still arrange one-to-ones with people offline.
Yeah.
You can still do all of that. There is a little bit of, I guess, banter at the beginning of some of these meetings, but Zoom isn't a platform for having little groups go apart unless you formalise that, and then that probably takes away from the naturalness of it. Yeah. I mean, for me, and partly why I asked Jacky the question, is I think there's never been a greater opportunity than now for people to access networking at lower cost than they ordinarily would, without the geographic barriers, and there's lots of free stuff out there. And I think people are missing out. Certainly those businesses that were networking pre-C and aren't now. I think that's the first mistake. But also all those people that don't know what networking is, haven't experienced it before. Why not get them giving it a go now? Because it's not going to cost them anything. You know, there's free options out there that people can try. And I appreciate that I'm probably preaching to the converted. But I think, you know, if there's people that you know that have been reluctant to do the physical networking for whatever reason, try and encourage them to try out some of the online stuff, because it's more easily accessible now. You've not got the aggro of either having to get up in the morning or drive anywhere or whatever. There's networking probably all day, every day now, somewhere in the country. You know, all you need is an internet connection and a half decent mic and camera. So yes, I think now is the time to encourage people and go back to people that you tried to get networking before and see if you can give them a flavour of it online, with a view that they might sort of get a little bit accustomed to it and come to physical meetings, or if not, I will certainly continue online stuff as well as physical stuff. Whether other networking groups will, I don't know, but I think there's opportunities for this platform. It's not the same. Not the same as networking face to face. You don't get the same feel and energy that you get in a room, because, you know, we're not all together. But I think it's just adapting to what's available now and making the most of that, I think. So yeah, that's my rant over. Yeah,
and I'd agree. So, but I do like it more than I thought I would. I don't know how I would feel if this was my first foray into networking. I was complete. I used to have complete funk about going networking when I first started. I had no idea how to do it or what I was supposed to be doing, and I was really nervous. And I do wonder if online I would have got more nervous, because you didn't get that people helping you to relax at the beginning over the cup of coffee and talking to a couple of people. You're sitting there and people who know each other are all having banter online. And I think there's a danger that as a newcomer, you can kind of sit there thinking, what am I doing here? I don't know these people.
I mean, possibly.
I don't know. I might find that harder. I think we have to remember if there are new people coming into a group that we make them feel included.
I think it's the same thing though, isn't it? It's still welcoming people, but in the context of this. So, you know, hopefully my group leaders, if there is someone new, you know, they're still welcoming that person.
Oh, yes, they
a
are,
lot,
yeah.
and setting them up for what to expect and stuff like that. And for me, for some, I think the thought of walking into a room with 25 people you don't know is potentially more daunting than just coming onto a screen.
Yeah, I used to find that pretty hairy. Yeah.
So it's horses for courses, I think. You know, there'll still be an element of fear for it. It's still networking with people, but I just think it's a great opportunity to get a few more people out in a relatively low risk environment.
And if we were really so awful, they could always just leave.
And they can just click a button and foxtrot Oscar, can't they? Sophie, I think you've got your hand up.
Yeah, so with what you're saying, Jacky, like I did start, my first ever networking meeting was online. This is all I've known. So I've only been doing this for a month. So my first ever networking meeting was online.
Yeah.
That's all I've done.
How did you find it, joining in?
You know what? It was brilliant because I was able to take that step back and like just listen and like suss out some of the characters. And actually now, being able to, when this all comes back to normal, I will feel so much more comfortable about walking into a room because people aren't total strangers to me because I met them essentially in the comfort of my own home. It's that weird balance that I actually think I'm going to do better because I started this way.
All right, that's interesting. Yeah. I mean, I don't know because I started the other way. You know, I think but I don't think I'd find it difficult to join something online now where I didn't know anybody.
Sorry, Jacky. As long as when you do go to a meeting, Sophie, you don't say, "Can you hear me?"
Am I on mute?
You can't mute people. That's the trouble. Yeah.
That's brilliant.
Right, I'm conscious of time, guys, so we only sort of like can allow an hour for this. So if you need to go, I won't be offended if you click on the button. Mark, you got your hand up.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I don't know, similar to Jacky, it's difficult to put myself back in a position 6 years ago, how I would have felt. I don't know whether I necessarily have found this more difficult, because I was a terrible wallflower in the physical meetings, because you walk in, everyone is talking to each other, and you just go, "Oh, I just got to have a cup of tea," and you disappear off to one side. So I think the fact that everyone can see you, and some people will say hello and greet you, it could work both ways. My view on this is when I speak to people about the virtual side, and they say, you know, how have you found it? Is that to me it's 95% the same. Yes, you're missing that informal bit at the start and the end, which is important, absolutely. But on the flip side, I think it's easier to try out new groups. I don't miss the bleary-eyed travel in the middle of February and January in the cold. And I can actually go to meetings at the minute that I wouldn't physically be able to get to, or that are too long to me to travel to. So I can get to meet a wider range of people during this period. And that's, for me, is the flip side, is making use of that. I'm not going to be able to go to all these meetings once they go back to physical, but I'll keep my core group going. And I would like, you know, hopefully with any of the virtual stuff, I'll be using some of that as well. And I think there are benefits to trying it at this point.
Absolutely.
Horses for courses, I think. Horses for courses.
Brilliant.